Arigatou. Good afternoon. Rusty McBain's here once again. We're going to continue our series on beginning essentials. This is going to be volume 2. This time we're going to go right into our middle section blocks. There's a natural progression from our punching into this area of blocks. Again, everything is a stepping stone. You build one level at a time, then everything expands from that. So again, we started with the punch to begin to instill certain principles. Those same principles are now going to move into our blocking techniques, but now we also have some extending movements that are going to help reinforce what it is we're looking for, both in preventive teaching, setting body postures, and now beginning to give application. To kind of give you a little idea how we got here in the first place, back about 1995, I had a referral student who came in, a gentleman named Casey Pruitt. Casey at the time was about 25 or 26 years old and worked for NASA. He was a contractor on the Mir space station. At 25 years old, he had his master's in kinesiology. So it's always been our policy at the dojo that if you want to begin classes, you must watch 1 or 2 classes and participate in 1 to 2 classes. Then, if it's still what you like, then you can enroll. So Casey came in, watched the class. I taught class that night, taught a number of things, but specifically I taught sidekick. Well, at the end of class, I walked up to Casey to ask him what he thought. And he said, well, I'm great. I'm ready to sign up. I said, well, no, you have to try class. That's our policy. He said, no, I don't need to try class. I said, tell me why not. He said, well, I've had 5 karate instructors from the age of 8 up until 25 or 24 years old, his last year in college. And he says, all of them taught a sidekick, but none of them taught it more correctly than about 15, 20, 25%. He said, you're easily at 80, 85% in teaching it mechanically correct, structurally correct. Where'd you learn how to teach sidekick like that? I told him, I just trial and error, hitting the bag dozens and dozens and dozens of times and being able to stop bigger and larger and faster opponents. So effectively, Casey joined the school. He became my first black belt that I promoted in goju-ryu. And for the next 2.5 years or so, we took every single technique that we had. Blocking, kicking, stances, transitions, you name it, we looked at it from a kinesiological standpoint. Did it actually mechanically work? And for the most part, we were pretty good, but a lot of things had to be tweaked. And this kind of set us up for how we teach and our techniques today and what it is we're trying to get across to our students. So again, instead of rather just teaching them a bunch of techniques to get them from this belt level to this belt level, we're looking more for a competence-based type of curriculum and assessment. And what we mean by competence-based, it's what we're doing by breaking it down the way we do. The student knows exactly what it is we're looking for. I'm not just looking for a block, but I'm looking for it to be done mechanically correct. So in the beginning, it's going to be rough, but as they progress, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And as they begin to learn new katas, we don't have to go back and teach them how to do this block. Make sure your elbows where it's supposed to be. Make sure your knees are where it's supposed to be. Look at your balance. So all those things are beginning to get set up. And additionally, we're going to prove it along the way. And that was the biggest thing for myself and Casey as we went through, how we were able to prove that what we did worked versus what we had done for years just because that's the way the style said it, or because I was in competition. If I didn't have my knee in this position, I'd get points taken off and then I would lose. So similarly, the same level allows our instructors and our senior students who are teaching the lower belts to know exactly what to teach them. So they're not just teaching them on a high block. They're going to teach them certain aspects. And then even with our children's groups, our juniors, this has become exceptionally successful. So again, everything they get tested on, they have to do the technique in full motion. But then they're also going to be required to do it by count to make sure that what we want is there. So again, that's going to apply to whether it's their kata, their forms, their sparring, their kumite, and their tuide or their grappling. And they have to be connected. If it doesn't work for one, something's missing. So again, going back and looking at everything that we're doing, we want want to have that preventive teaching in a company immediately even with application. That has to be there. So from day one, they've got a partner that they have to practice. And that's done the most. If somebody's grabbing me, I still don't do the block. Somebody grabs, I have to learn how to use that technique to escape that technique, that attack. And always we emphasize the 5 combative postures: your body alignment, your distancing, your footwork, your timing, and your placement of technique and targeting. And these middle section blocks really reach out to this idea of body distancing and body alignment and placement of technique. So again, these don't just reinforce, we're not just doing techniques, but we're trying to reinforce, combative applications and making sure that I'm using my body properly. That's the whole idea behind San Chin. It's not to sit there and see if you can, hold this while people slap on your body and your back and kick you on your legs. It's to make sure that everything's properly aligned so you can relax as much as possible. So we understand and we go back and look at our basic punch, and specifically this punch. So we teach this punch specifically because now this is the same starting motion that I'm going to use for my middle block, or my Mawashuke, or my Todaguchi. So this specifically is why we teach this block. It's to set the next level for our block. So if they've learned the proper distancing of the arm from the body, they'll understand that that's the same motion that's going to have to be there for this block. And again, so first thing we're going to do is we look at center line, and then we have that where we divided that before, which is going to be the starting point for all of our blocks and kicks. And we're always going to look at center line, and this is point A. This is always where it starts. This is how you get in the garage, and this is how you get out. You have to use, that's the starting point for every single one of our techniques. So starting with Chudan Uke. Now this block is not a side-to-side block. This is a forward motion block. This is here somebody coming in and I'm reaching out to receive their technique. It's natural just to put the hands up in that form. So we start from here. This little curvature is important, and this is another proving point. Start with the arm and get it nice and straight from here. Make sure that the hand is also lower than the shoulder. So put the hand in this position, put it a little bit higher with the shoulder, and if you have an opportunity to work with a partner, have them try to manipulate it side to side or up to down. And you're going to find they have that ability. Now, get a little natural bend in the wrist, lower it, make sure that the fingers is just slightly lower than the shoulder, but keep the elbow away from you. If you start to lower it in, you're going to lose that again. And then have them try to do the same thing. And you're going to find that with this elbow in this position, you're going to have much stronger stability. All the muscles have been properly aligned, and they're able to hold those bones in that position. So remember, that's the whole idea behind muscles, is to properly align those bones. Now you can't feel your bones, but you can feel your muscles. So it's important that you begin to register that feeling. Even touching it is important, because then you can put your hands on someone else. That's why when you do the shime on San Chin, you're trying to feel if it's proper before you ever actually set it up, so that the student can feel the difference on the slap, not the person performing the slap. So we're going to break this one into 5 counts. The first thing is I take my finger and I place it right here, my arms right next to my body, and my elbow just circles around my finger. That little small motion. A lot of people, when they do this block, they tend to extend it so far because they've already started it from here. But if you were in a real situation, your hand would be here and they would bring it up, and look, I'm already there. I've been doing it so long that I already set that standard. It's always there. It'll never be anything more or less. It'll always be in that position. So starting from here, hand starts just on this side of my ear, and moving the elbow brings my hand to this side. Elbow still pushing in. See, I've cleared my path. 1, there's my little path. 2, my hand's going to come up, and where this little groove, where this little indentation is, that's what's going to rest on my elbow. Making sure that the hand's not across the body, but coming forward. That's where my attacker's at. My hand's already pointing at my attacker. So when I move it, I keep my hand pointing at my attacker. This hand comes in and is going to go right where that opening's at. Not here. My target's not over here. Somebody could easily come in and put their hand against me, and then now I can't action my response. So it's 1, slide this in using this body. And then 3, I slide my elbow up to my hand. So I'm in the same position in the sense that my hand is now here. I pull back, and using the same motion I did in the beginning, but I do it in reverse, and then I finish my block. Again, 1, this is what I'm moving, don't let the hand do this. If you have somebody who can push your hand as you do this, it'll help you understand to keep that hand in this position, otherwise you're going to lose your technique. So 1, clear that path. 2, there's my hand coming straight in. As my hand arm slides up, it'll bring it to this projection. Here, slide the arm up, pull back, there's my elbow around that little circle. 1, 2, slide it up. I'm sliding my elbow towards center line. Pull back and finish the block. So it's a very small block. Any movement I want it as clean and as tight as I can. Now once I start moving, the block will look bigger. This is a very small, I call it like threading the needle. Here's my needle opening. I'm going to slide it straight in. Pull it back and then out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, in all our blocks, this hand is the most important hand. This is the action hand. So if somebody has grabbed my wrist, and I bring this hand up here and I use this arm to push against their hand, I can't push their arm off my wrist, but I can pull it out. So again, I'm using the theory of base and control that Wally J perfected. Once this comes in, I'm starting to set. Somebody could have grabbed me here. Could have grabbed me here. Now if they grab me and I do this, it's already going to put their arm in a bad position. So this is important. If I were grabbing here and I did this, because it's going to take their arm, it's going to put them in a bad position. So again, it doesn't matter if they grab me my wrist, my elbow, my middle forearm, or my wrist. Normally it's going to be your wrist because that's the easiest place to grab. So once again, I'm here. I step up, I slide up my arm. Now that I've got their hand caught in this area, I'm able to pull this out and finish the block. 1, 2, 3, pull, block. So once I do the whole block, this hand makes the most powerful this block. Boom, boom, boom. So again, you notice that the block stays inside my box. It's not going way out here, straight and forward. That's where my technique's at. If I'm sparring, that's where I'm going to come in, right there. I'm not throwing from the side. So again, it's got that practical application. Now, once I understand middle block, we simply turn the hands over to shoten. Now, you'll notice that the fingers are in this position. It's not because I turned my wrist. I'm not flipping my hand side to side, like I'm waving bye-bye like my grandson does. My arm is straight like a punch. If I roll my elbow in, my hand goes to this angle. So again, my arm has stayed as a single unit. So you just put your arm out here, roll this elbow in, the hand comes in that position. Now, what if we also begin setting up is the understanding of tensho. So I don't want to do this, somebody puts a hand here, it's going to be hard. This becomes easy. Using the chest, not this rotation of my arm. Use that chest to collapse. So again, from here, keeping the arm in that position, this is what I move. Cleared my path. Hand comes in. And again, my elbow rests right there in that little hole. Slide up, pull, small motion. Out, keeping this. Remember this here, somebody punches, this is what I want to block with. I want to use what I call the turkey leg. 1, there it is. Clear that path, there's my eye of the needle. Come in, slide up, here, rotate this. This is rotates my hand. I'm not physically doing this. I rotate this in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same as this block. Nothing has changed except here. And this really defines this really rotating of the elbow. So again, remember the division of the body, center, and then I've divided it again. That's my starting point. I'm trying to bring it, now it's at center line, and it ends up here again. Always using, I'm rubbing my body, I got to my hand. Now all the rubbing hands with my hand. And again, I'm always thinking somebody's grabbing me and I'm pulling their hand loose. Using this hand to make the base. Now once we understand middle block, Mawashi Uke, we take the hands and turn them, we can turn them this way. Now Kakuke, hand comes across and we turn it. This one comes underneath. It starts the same way. Slides up. Now pull and back. Here. Elbow. Elbow. 1, 2, 3. Now from here, 4, 5. And notice where the hands turn the same. 1, 2. Little move. There, from ear to ear. Now, you notice that my fingers are above my shoulder, but my wrist is not. So I'm actually, my fingers can come higher than my shoulder here, but if I close my hand, it's lower than my shoulder. So don't braid this down, because then you've lost the technique as well. So elbow, see that angle? 2, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 5. So even as I'm doing it as one motion, I'm still doing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just not 1, big space, 2. Now it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Still focusing. What is it I'm focusing on while I'm doing the technique? Not the technique, but what am I trying to instill? Collapsing of that shoulder, letting everything come inside. Rubbing of the arms and next to the body. Now, Toriguchi, tiger mouth block. This is a middle block as well. And it's, because it's a little bit more complicated, I'd like to teach it into 2 parts. So we start from here, become 1, very similar to what we just did. Now all I'm going to do from there is bring this little rounded part of my arm here to my body. So I don't have my hand, my thumb pushing into my chest. If I do, it makes my elbow stick out. So when I pull this back, I'm pulling it right here, but my hand's more to the front. If I put my hand here, it rolls my shoulder out. This is what I want. So 1, 2, 3, and then press the elbow forward. And then I'm right back. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Keep in mind that not everything that we teach at the beginning is exactly the way it's supposed to be performed. My idea, again, 1, is to engineer the problems out. I don't want big, wasted motion, and I don't want to lose the structure of the arm and the elbow rolling out. So I'm going to focus on keeping everything tight. That's number 1 on all of these blocks and my punches, even my kicks. So again, from here, it's 1, 2, there's that angle of my arm, 3, and 4. So if I turn here, 1, 2, back, and there. 1, 2, 3, and so you see it's a very small motion. Now, the arm that's in front, make sure you drop your elbow, don't raise your elbow up. Somebody comes underneath there, we're going to be able to manipulate your arm. So make sure you keep that elbow down. I'm in the same position as I did my middle block. So this is still pressing down. My shoulders are pressing down. Here, don't raise your arm up. If somebody puts their arm on top, you're not going to be able to push it up. But roll that elbow in. So if they're pushing on your arm and you roll in, they'll fall through your technique, which is actually exactly why you have this technique. So from here, shoulders down, roll that elbow in. I'm rolling my elbow in, just like I did when I did this. Roll this in. Bring it back. Again, Tensho. So I let my students know that, look, I'm not preparing you, I'm not just teaching you a technique, I'm preparing you to come over here and do this. So when you get there, you already know how to do the technique. All I have to actually do is teach you the form, and you know exactly how to go back and fix it because you have a checklist. Preventive teaching and application. So from here, it's going to be 1. As I pull back, I rotate. Now this hand does not travel downward. As soon as you do, you're not going to have any strength. Let your arm just push down forward. So this actually travels almost in a straight line. But because the shoulder is higher than this, it looks like I'm going downward. So this is a forward motion, not a downward motion. You have somebody push against your hand and try to push down, and your hand's going to go down. Push forward, and it'll naturally follow that pathway. So again, this is a straight, this would be your punch. You see, if I did a middle punch or a stomach punch, then my hand would be in this angle, but it traveled on a straight line. So from here, travel, straight line. If this was the top hand, it would travel on a straight line. Just like I did my agaski, which is the reason why we taught this punch. It connected and set the standard. We progressively, 1 brick on top of another brick on top of another brick. Bottom was 1 brick, then it went to 2 bricks. So if you don't have 2 bricks, you can't put 1 brick. So you just don't have one brick on top of the other. Putting it together, 1, just like our other blocks, we go from ear to ear. 2, hand slides up and my elbow comes in. I don't want to let my elbow come out. So again, no power. 1, 2, I'm center line. My hand's right in the middle there. From there, this hand pulls back. 3, elbow comes in. So between my face, this hand and this hand, I have a nice straight line. Pull both elbows back, making sure that this butt of your palm is lower, is even with your fingers. If you try to do this, you're going to be offset. So the top bottom of this hand comes to your fingers, the bottom of this hand comes to your fingers, that's proper. And then press forward. Using the arms, I'm pressing in this way as I push forward. And from there, all I have to do is raise a hand. This comes here. Again, there's that little groove where that hand fits. Keeping the elbow down, don't raise it up. 1, come across that face. I cleared my path. 2, I drop my elbow. 3, bring this in. 4, push. Pull back. Notice, there it is. And press. 1, 2, 3, drop in that elbow. I'm always coming inside. This is just like the beginning of my kata sanchin. 1, 2, 3, push, pull back, and down. Remember, this can also be a strike. I'm not striking down here. Pow, I'm going to strike here. Boom, strike. Same movement I would use in goju-ryu. So this motion, goju-ryu, is half my choraguchi. 1, 2, drop that elbow in, close it in, protect your body. 3, 4, 5, and then press. Raise the other, and this hand's already in position. You don't have to do anything with it. Here to there. Drop that elbow. 1, clear that path. 2, hands coming forward. 3, pull it back. Remember, this part, this little curved part, sits right there. Here's my xiphoid process. It's right there where that rib cage starts. Pull both elbows back. Close the hands, make sure they're proper. Press against that body and forward. Boom. Pressing down and forward. Remember, always doing sanchin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then as the student gets better, you make this 1, 2, and 3. 1. Always this rubbing. Person's grabbing my hand, I'm pulling out. I can't push off. Like I said, have anybody grab your hand and try to push their arm off, you won't be able to do it. And you want to make sure that you're rubbing because they're grabbing your wrist. Well, the weakest part of their grip is their fingers. And I want to cut those fingers off. So I like to think of this as being a knife, and I'm skimming, I'm skimming myself. I'm shaving the person's hands off. So this rubbing is extremely important. It always knows, I don't want to be banging. That hurts me. I want to slice. I want to keep control of that technique. So again, as we get better, this becomes one. But what I'm going to do is this comes here. I try to take my elbow, touch it inside. That helps me know it's there. Boom, it's there. I know it's in place because I touched it. So again, what I'm doing is not so much trying to teach a technique, but I'm using this technique to instill preventive measures, keep those elbows in, shoulders down, back rounded. Know what I'm using, the chest or the back. Okay, so we can start getting into principles of yin yang. If the elbow starts rolling out, then we start looking at ideas of body mapping, because we already know where those deficits are, where the body shift is at, where the weight's on the outside of the leg, on the inside of the leg, on the heels or the toes. So there's much more to this than just a simple block. Again, it's not the block that I'm teaching. This is basically the end of our blocks in teaching in our curriculum. Because once you understand these, then you'll understand some of the other ones. So these are the all we have for our middle blocks. Then we have a rising block and a lower block. And then again, like I said, so once I hear it, see, there's my high block, here's my low block. So I'm already in the Seiyunchin. So once I understand this, look, this is Tensho. 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 So again, we want to keep it basic for the beginner, and then as the student progresses, we take the same technique and we go from very square, we begin to round the edges, we begin to give it definition, we begin to go from a square marble to a beautifully polished statue. So what are our main keys? Always the rubbing of the arm, maintaining of this body posture, arm posture, shoulder down, always pushing forward, driving with this elbow, using the chest, okay, always rubbing, always rubbing, always rubbing, setting that standard. And we set that standard because we did this here. We set the elbow because we made sure that when we punched that the elbow stayed down. Would be the same thing. So if I come do this technique and I roll this in, this elbow is going to stay down again. Here's my elbow down. It's not going to roll. It's not going to roll out. So this one technique, this punch, set the standard for all of these techniques. That's our competence-based curriculum. So again, thank you for your time. I hope this helps. The next segment we're going to get into our rising block, or downward sweeping block, our chuge, our middle and low technique. This can be used as either strike and or blocking. And then we're going to get into our shuto uchi, outward and inward, and our uikanuch. So again, because those are I like to teach those because, like our blocks, they're a little bit more circular than just a straight thrusting punch. All right, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it worked out for you. And again, we hope that the intent is there's something useful here for you. Anytime you have any questions, comments, please feel free to contact me. That's what we're here for. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimashita.